Maplewood is a quiet town, the kind of place where people wave to their neighbors, and Sunday mornings smell like fresh coffee and cut grass. It's a good town, a town that values honesty, hard work, and looking out for one another. And in that town, nestled at the end of a peaceful cul-de-sac, sits my house. I'm Miguel Santiago, the chief of police. Been in law enforcement for nearly 20 years, and if you know my name, you've probably heard my nickname too, the Hammer. People say I'm tough on crime, but really, I just believe in fairness. I don't care who you are or where you come from. If you break the law, you answer for it. But this story isn't about my job, at least not at first. This story is about my garden. See, my job is stressful. You deal with crime long enough, and you start needing an outlet, something that keeps you grounded. For me, that's gardening. 4 years ago, I turned a patch of my backyard into my personal retreat, a vegetable garden that became my pride and joy. Tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, cucumbers. If it grows in the soil, I probably have it. I grow so much that I share with my neighbors, and I even donate to the local food bank. I even put up a small wooden sign near the garden. Take what you need. Leave some for others. It's a simple message, a trust-based system. I never had a problem before. People respected it. Until last Tuesday. That was the day Patricia Whitman showed up. It was a hot afternoon, the kind that made the air shimmer in the distance. I was outside, pruning my prized Roma tomatoes, sweat beading on my brow, enjoying the quiet hum of the cicadas. That's when I heard rustling. Someone was in my zucchini patch. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or maybe a curious kid. But no, as I turned my head, I saw her, a woman, kneeling in my garden, shoving vegetables into an oversized designer handbag. She was a classic Patricia Whitman if I'd ever seen one. Sunglasses perched high on her nose, her perfectly styled blonde bob bouncing as she stuffed more zucchini into her bag like she was stocking up for the apocalypse. For a moment, I just stood there in disbelief. I mean, I'd seen my fair share of theft in my line of work, but never had I seen someone so blatantly rob a vegetable garden. I cleared my throat. "Excuse me." She jumped, dropping a zucchini onto the ground. "Oh," she gasped, eyes wide with exaggerated innocence. "I was just admiring your plants." I folded my arms. "Admiring them into your handbag." The saccharine sweetness in her voice vanished instantly. Her lips pursed, and her tone turned defensive. "Well, I assumed they were free," she snapped. "There's no price tag." I exhaled slowly, keeping my voice calm. "There's a sign. It says, 'Take what you need, leave some for others.' You seem to be taking everything and leaving nothing." That's when her face changed. The mask of politeness melted away, and something uglier took its place. Entitlement, anger, the kind of rage that comes when someone isn't getting their way. "Are you accusing me of stealing?" she shrieked, voice rising several decibels. "I resent that. I am perfectly capable of buying my own vegetables." I resisted the urge to laugh. The woman was literally standing in my garden, her bag overflowing with my produce, and she was upset I was being rude. I sighed. "Look, just put the vegetables back, and we'll forget this ever happened." Big mistake. That's when she pulled out her phone. Her fingers flew across the screen as she dramatically pressed it to her ear. "I am being threatened," she wailed. "There's a man here harassing me. I feel unsafe." I felt my blood turn cold. I knew this game. I'd seen it before, too many times. The fake distress, the overacting, the deliberate attempt to weaponize the police against a black man. Except this time, she had picked the wrong target. I stayed calm. "Ma'am, please calm down. You are not being threatened. Return the vegetables and leave my property." She scoffed, tossing her hair. "You think I'm listening to you? I'm waiting for the real police to arrive." I nearly laughed. I had to bite my tongue to keep from blurting out, "Lady, I am the police." Instead, I just stood there, letting her dig her own grave. What she didn't know was that my security cameras had been recording everything. The moment she stepped into my garden, the moment she started stealing, and now, her dramatic little performance. So, I did what any good gardener would do. I went back to pruning my tomatoes. For a few minutes, she stood there, arms crossed, tapping her foot, shooting me smug glances like she had won. Then, in the distance, I heard it. Sirens. They grew louder, flashing lights reflecting off my fence. Within moments, 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop in front of my house. Patricia Whitman smirked. She actually smirked. She puffed out her chest like she expected them to roll out the red carpet. The officer stepped out, looking serious as they approached. One of them spoke. "Sir, we received a call about a disturbance." I held up my hand. "Officers, I'm Chief Miguel Santiago. This woman is making a false report." The officers' eyes widened in shock. They snapped to attention like cadets in training. "See, Chief," one of them stammered. "Sir," I nodded toward Patricia Whitman. "This woman was caught stealing from my garden. When confronted, she called 911 and falsely claimed I was threatening her. I have everything on my security cameras." The officers turned to her. Her smirk vanished. She opened her mouth to speak, but the officer cut her off. "Ma'am, please step away from the property. We need to ask you some questions." She hesitated. I could see the gears turning in her head. She had been so sure this was going to work. Now, things were going to plan. The officers took her aside, and I watched as she tried to spin her web of lies. But here's the thing. These officers knew me. They had worked with me, and they had seen this kind of situation before. It didn't take long. Within minutes, they came back over to me. "Chief," one of them said, "we reviewed the footage. It's clear she was stealing and that her 911 call was completely fabricated." I nodded. "I want her arrested for filing a false police report and theft." The officer nodded. "Yes, sir." They turned back to Patricia Whitman, and for the first time, she looked scared. Patricia Whitman's face twisted in disbelief as the officers stepped toward her. Wait," she stammered, clutching her designer handbag like it was a lifeline. You can't be serious." The officers weren't playing. "Ma'am," one of them said, his voice firm, "you are under arrest for filing a false police report and theft." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. She was actually speechless. "This is ridiculous," she finally shrieked. "I am the victim." The officer pulled out his handcuffs. "Ma'am, place your hands behind your back." "No." Click. The cuffs snapped around her wrists, and suddenly, reality hit her. "I'll have your badge for this," she screamed. "Do you know who I am?" The officer nodded toward me. "Yes, ma'am. And do you know who he is?" "That's Chief Santiago." Her face paled. That's when she knew. She had messed up. As the officers led her toward the squad car, she started flailing. "This is police brutality," she wailed. "You're arresting the wrong person. I demand to speak to your superior." One of the officers gestured toward me. "Ma'am, that is our superior." I crossed my arms, meeting her gaze. "Ma'am, you're under arrest. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Oh, now she wanted to be quiet. As the officers read her rights, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Not because I like seeing someone in trouble, but because justice was finally being served. This woman had weaponized the police against me. She thought she could use her privilege to have me taken away in handcuffs. Instead, she was the one being shoved into the back of a squad car. Poetic justice. After Patricia Whitman was booked at the station, the officers dug a little deeper into her background, and what they found was jaw-dropping. Turns out, Patricia Whitman wasn't just a random entitled woman with a penchant for stealing vegetables. She had a history. There were several reports from neighbors about missing produce, stolen flowers, and even garden decorations vanishing in the middle of the night. A few years back, she had even been caught shoplifting at a high-end department store, though the charges had been dropped. The officers obtained a search warrant for her house, and what they found inside: a veritable farmer's market of stolen goods. Bags of vegetables, potted flowers, stolen garden gnomes, even an entire rack of hanging plants. This woman had been running a one-woman black market of stolen garden supplies. The evidence was overwhelming. Not only was she going to be charged with filing a false police report, but she was now facing multiple counts of theft. She wasn't just a Patricia Whitman. She was a serial garden thief. The story spread like wildfire. The local news station ran a front-page article about the Great Zucchini Heist. But the real explosion? Social media. My security camera footage, showing her stealing from my garden and making the false 911 call, went viral. It was shared thousands of times. People couldn't believe it. The comment section was brutal. Small Blue Diamond, she really tried to get a police chief arrested. The audacity. Small Blue Diamond, this is why security cameras are a must. Patricia Whitman played herself. Small Blue Diamond, I love that he just went back to pruning his tomatoes while she ruined her own life. And then, Patricia Whitman's employer saw the video. Turns out, she worked at a prestigious law firm in the city. The firm quickly issued a public statement condemning her behavior. We hold our employees to the highest ethical standards. Ms. Patricia Whitman's last name. S actions do not reflect our firm's values, and her employment has been terminated effective immediately. She lost her job. Just like that. By the time Patricia Whitman went to trial, she was completely disgraced. She pleaded guilty to theft and filing a false police report. Her punishment? Small Blue Diamond community service. Small Blue Diamond a hefty fine. Small Blue Diamond mandatory racial sensitivity training. It wasn't a harsh sentence. But the real punishment? Her reputation was destroyed. She had become a pariah. The entire community shunned her. She lost her job. Her former friends wanted nothing to do with her. No one wanted to hire someone who had been publicly exposed as a thief and a liar. She had tried to use the system to ruin me. Instead, she had ruined herself. In the aftermath of the scandal, something amazing happened. People started coming together. The community rallied around the food bank. Donations poured in. More people volunteered to help at community gardens. It was like Patricia Whitman's entitlement had inadvertently sparked a movement of kindness. I even received letters and emails from people thanking me for standing up to her. It was humbling, because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about stolen vegetables. It was about something bigger. It was about justice. Life went on. The tomatoes ripened. The peppers flourished. The zucchini? Well, let's just say I kept a closer eye on it. And of course, I installed even more security cameras. Because if there's one thing this whole ordeal taught me, it's that you never know when a Patricia Whitman might try to steal from your garden. But one thing is for sure. She won't be trying it again anytime soon.